And power. Once again, this your big brother Psyche. And today I'm going to do a little building. You know, most of the time, if you watch me a little while, you know that a lot of times what I build on is usually inspired by something that happened in my life. Not too long ago, I had a young brother ask me, and he asked me what made me happy. And it forced me to want to create this video because when he asked me this, he did not ask me this in a true desire to just understand what made me happy. I was building with him on how to be more productive, on how he needed to structure himself. And so he looked at me like, God, this guy's always just talking about being productive. What about happiness? You know, that's the thought process that was going through his head. So he asked me what made me happy. And you know, I stopped and I thought about it and I told him, I said, the truth is that's something that I rarely never think about. I rarely think about, hey, what's going to make me happy today? I don't think like that. The way that I think is what will make me better. I think, how can I be more productive? How can I move closer to fulfilling the purpose, actually making the fact that I was on the planet be important? How do I accomplish those type of goals? Those are the things that I think about. That's the way I look at things. What will make me a better human being? And I think that if I accomplish those things in the process, I will become happy. But I decided to build on this idea of the pursuit of happiness. Now, I've done a video on happiness before. I call it the 12 Steps to Happiness. I'll leave a link at the end of this video. You should check it out if you like this one. But what I'm gonna do is I've decided to break it down, to dissect this thing. Because I believe there's two paths to happiness. One I'm gonna call the savage in the pursuit of happiness. The other one I'm gonna call the conscious human being in the pursuit of happiness. And let's build on these different aspects. And like y'all know I always do. I play my intro. And then we're gonna build on
it. Yeah. Something epic again. Vintage. Save my heaven if you could just see through my hair. You got that? My days are numbered, read it somewhere in numbers. Oh, she told me it's the thing she not ordered to do that unsure. So free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. I was honest, swear I was wanted on every corner. I was locked away like a monster too many times. This time, can't even bring myself to write my people. This time, can hardly bring myself to write a sequel. Don't ever take life for granted, this life a cheat. Don't know how many days we got on this planet Ice, so be cool. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Man in the mirror's the shooter, I'm begging to be conducive. An uphill battle, a boat without a paddle, I float. Vampire in Dallas, like sleepless in Seattle. I know all these talents and gifts and you giving up on me. But God keep bringing me back like, bitch, you stuck with me. What's up with me?
I'm gonna start with the savage in the pursuit of happiness. Now, the reason I'm gonna start with the savage in the pursuit of happiness because you have to understand that the thing about the savage in the pursuit of happiness, and I'm gonna break down his pursuit, is that most people that you meet who are trying to get happy, they are pursuing happiness as the savage does. The reason for that is because the savage's way of pursuing happiness is easier, it's faster. The problem is it's very deceptive. It doesn't last long because it's not real happiness. It's not concrete. It's fleeting. And you'll see why I say that when I explain the paths and the methods that the savage uses to get to happiness. One, usually, and the savage usually chooses something outside of the self to stimulate his or her brain. It's always got to be something outside the self that brings the savage happiness. The savage doesn't understand that real happiness comes from inside. So they always seeking happiness outside the self through some object. Usually the savage is heavy into controlled substances. The savage loves to smoke weed, smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol. Anything that the savage can put into the savage itself to stimulate the savage views as the thing that makes it happy. Now, am I saying that smoking your little weed or drinking your beer makes you a savage? No. But if you have to do these things every single day, without fail, you're probably a savage in the pursuit of happiness. The same thing with coffee. I drink coffee every morning. I drink me a shot of coffee every single morning. But if you running around throughout the course of the day drinking coffee all day long until the midnight, then something's wrong. You're a savage in the pursuit of happiness. You hate to feel calm in your own mind, and you're seeking something to take you to some other level. The savage pursuit of happiness is never satisfying, because anybody that's ever smoked weed or drink a beer know that the feeling may be all right for them, but the feeling goes away. So that is not true happiness. The savage pursuit goes on these pursuits thinking these things will give him or her happiness, and it never truly does. Matter of fact, I think about this, and I'm gonna read something, cause I love this. This is a passage from George Jackson. Came from the book Solidarity Brother, page 155. I used to know this passage by heart. I used to recite it all the time. But it says, George Jackson says, what if a person was so oriented that the loss of no material thing could cause him mental disorganization? This is the free agent. He is nameless, faceless, emotionless, loveless. He is without habit, without weakness of the flesh. He travels light, and only in the company of those who, like himself, prize self-determination above baseball and beer. Only the free agent can win for us the necessary control over the direction of our unrewarding lives. Now think about that. He said that the free agent, he travels light. He don't carry a whole bunch of bags. And he only travels in the company of those other people like himself who prize self-determination, control over your own life, over baseball and beer, over fleeting games and BSing and getting drunk and high. He only travels with those types of people. And that's what it made me think about when I talk about how the savage heavily pursues controlled substances in order to give himself or herself that pleasure, that feeling of happiness. Another thing that the savage does is the savage pursues happiness through an over preoccupation with sex, with sexual stimulation, whether it's sex or masturbation. The savage is constantly on the hub. The savage is constantly looking for something to put his penis in, or looking for something to go into her vagina. The savage is consistently looking for that sexual explosion, because the savage equates his or her lustful fulfillment with happiness. So the savage is constantly looking for that feeling. Another thing that you can know about the savage pursuit of happiness is the savage always wants a romantic relationship. Now that in itself is not a bad thing. Don't think that I'm sitting up here saying that wanting a romantic relationship is horrible. But a person who cannot operate without that romantic relationship, something is wrong here. Because you have to be able to find happiness in self in order to be able to enjoy and share happiness with another person. See, the problem with the savage is the savage believes that outside source, that person coming into his or her life, is going to make them happy. Matter of fact, they believe that person's job is to make them happy. Nobody's job is to make you happy. Your job is to become happy yourself. And only then can you share happiness with another human being who has learned how to become happy on their own. Then y'all can share the state of happiness together. But as long as you depend on somebody else to produce your happiness, as soon as that person decides not to make you happy, or decides that they don't want to be in your life, you'll no longer be happy anymore. So that's not real happiness. That's the savage pursuit of happiness. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you something. Most people like that, most people that pursue happiness out of relationships are really, honestly not happy. And see, one thing you can understand is that you can't make a person happy. You can guide a person to the state of happiness, and you can guide a person, but the person has to be willing to become happy and to walk down the road and take the necessary steps to get to that happiness. And you can also guide a person down the savage's pursuit of happiness. You can meet a person and you can feed the person weed, you can feed the person alcohol, you can constantly feed the person sex, you can constantly feed the person all these distractions and thinking that this is what makes them happy because you think it's what makes you happy. And so you can lead them down the wrong direction. But one day you have to understand that no truly unhappy person, there is nothing you can do that will ever please them or give them happiness, because they are unhappy, they're miserable. And the old saying is true. Misery loves company. And that's why in the 48 Laws of Power, I think it's law number 10 that says you have to avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Let me look at that. We're going to build today. We're gonna build. If y'all came on the channel looking for somebody to do some dancing or something, that ain't what you're gonna get. We're gonna do some building today. But let me look at this. I ain't gonna read the whole thing. I'm just gonna read the basic law. I think it's number 10, if I didn't get this wrong. And I think I got it right because it's something I've been drilling into my own head. Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. You could die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are infectious as diseases. You may feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only participating in your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the happy and the fortunate instead. Boy, that's real. That's real. If you don't take anything else out of that book, you got to take that out of the book, because if you're around unhappy and infectious people, they'll put their misery on you. I dealt with a person that was unhappy. I dealt way too long, two years too long. I dealt with that person, and that person was so miserable and unhappy that that person was draining my spirit. You cannot allow yourself to be around people like that. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky, and avoid the savage in the pursuit of happiness. Now that's basically, you get the point. The savage pursues happiness by seeking outside things to come into the savage's life or into the savage's personal self in order to make them happy. Now there's another way to get to happiness. There's another process, the conscious person's way to pursue happiness. Now the conscious person, there are many different schools of builders, and they have different processes for getting to the same result. And this is not to say one process is better than the other, but one thing I'm going to build on is the process that I understand the best. I'm going to build on those processes. Now I'm going to go into the conscious person's pursuit to happiness. And like I said, I did a video previously called the 12 Steps to Happiness. And these are the 12 steps that I walked down. I did these 12 steps, and I didn't make these steps up. There'll be those who watch this video who have been initiated into this school of thinking that automatically know where these principles come from. But these are what I figure are the 12 steps to happiness, and they are given in a step-by-step process. It's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, freedom, justice, equality, food, clothing, shelter, love, peace, and happiness. With happiness being the end goal. Now see the difference. See the difference between the savage pursuing happiness is all the savage has to do is light a blunt. And in a few minutes, boom, the savage has the feeling of happiness. But the conscious person has to learn how to manifest these 12 principles in order for happiness to be a part of the conscious person's life. The conscious person understands the true definition of happiness. The true definition of happiness is contentment with one's inner self. That's what the conscious person understands. And that is not something that you can get by lighting anything up. That is not something that you can get by drinking anything. That is something you can only get by walking this process that I'm going to explain. The first step in the process is knowledge. Why? Because knowledge is, you've heard this old saying before, but knowledge is power. Knowledge gives you power when properly applied. Knowledge is to have a comprehension of self and the things around you. And with that comprehension, it gives you the ability to make changes in your reality, to affect your reality. I'm gonna give you an example, a nice example I like to use. Let's say two men are stuck in a forest. There are trees all over the place, and there are tools. One man has the knowledge of carpentry, the other man does not. The man with the knowledge of carpentry, he understands the difference between softwoods and hardwoods. He understands what to do with a saw and what to do with a hammer. That man has the ability to cut down the trees and turn them into lumber, build him a nice log cabin, a rocking chair, and now he's sitting in the comfort of some shelter. The other man doesn't have that knowledge. He's at the mercy of the elements. When it starts raining, he has to try to cover himself over with some leaves. When it starts snowing, he has to try to find some already earth-made, a natural-made cave to go hide in. See, the difference between the two men is one has knowledge and the other one doesn't. So knowledge puts you in a greater position to affect your reality. So the first step is to get knowledge. Not to worry about being happy, but to get knowledge. Then once you gain knowledge, you move to the second step, which is wisdom. Wisdom is a reflection of your knowledge, meaning that no one knows what you know just by looking at you. No one can, but they can know what you know by hearing you or listening to you. So wisdom is the way that you speak, the way that you walk, and the way you respond to your reality. When you have a problem at work, if your knowledge is right and exact, you'll get a proper response, which is your wisdom. It's a reflection of your knowledge. Your wisdom it manifests itself and it shines forth from you. It becomes your habitual response to your reality once you have securely planted your knowledge in your mind and in your responses to reality. Next, you move to understanding. Understanding is not only I said number one was knowledge. Number two was wisdom. When one and two come together, they produce three, which is understanding. So when knowledge and wisdom mates, they give birth to understanding. Understanding is your ability to not only know and not only reflect what you know, but to share what you know to others to move them on their steps to moving toward knowledge. You have such a deep understanding of comprehension, and the word understanding literally means to stand under. So you can stand under the principles, ideas, concepts that you live by so well that you can manifest that to another human being and they can start walking their path of knowledge. So now that you have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, it moves you to a level of freedom. The fourth principle. You have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and it frees you. It not only frees your dome, but it frees your reality. And like I always say, that there are three principles of freedom. You have to be free in the mind, free in the body, and free in the spirit. If you have these three principles of freedom, then you are able to live freely. And when you have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, it gives you the ability to produce freedom in your reality. But when you have freedom, people think freedom means to do whatever you want to do. That ain't what freedom is. Because if you are free to do whatever you want to do and you trample on another person's freedom, you just took somebody else's freedom. Freedom cannot freedom cannot exist where slavery exists. Whenever you put somebody else in slavery, whenever you put somebody else in a what's the word I'm looking for? In a depressed state, freedom just disappeared. So the freedom is checked by the law of justice, which is number 5. Freedom is checked by the law of justice. Justice means that I have the freedom to walk over and punch a person in the eye. But by doing that, they have the freedom to defend themselves and punch me in the eye back. So now I've just enacted the law of justice. If I want to truly live freely, I gotta respect the freedom of other people, and now we live in injustice. Justice is the law of harmony, of balance. You've heard many of the ancient builders say it, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Never do unto another person nothing that you would have them do unto you. A righteous man wants for his brother. A true believer wants for his brother what he wants for himself. They say it. There's all these different schools of thoughts, and these builders said this because they understand the law of justice. They know that the universe is never mocked. Whatever you put out will always come back to you. So when you learn how to live by that law, you are produced. You gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which gives you the ability to produce your freedom. That freedom, then you keep it in check through justice, and you live in that justice. When you live in that justice and treat everybody fairly, you have produced equality. And now that you're living off equality, now you living in a, I hate to use this word, but you're living in an extremely tranquil state. Because think about it. Have you ever in your life been happy and satisfied if you felt unequal to those in your environment that were more powerful than you? If people was able to eat and you wasn't able to eat, did that make you feel good? If people had power and you had no power, did that make you feel good? But if equality existed, then you felt better about who you are. Now that you have equality, you can move to your creature comforts, the basic things that you need in order to live comfortable in your reality. And that's food, clothing, and shelter. They simple, right? On a physical level. Food is the nourishment that you need to put into your body in order for cellular repair and to give you energy. Food. Clothing is the things that you put on top of your body to not only to keep you warm but to cover your unmentionables. And shelter is the place where you can live in, not only to protect you from the elements, the rain, snow, storms and things like that may come, but they also give you a place to put your property and keep them from thieves and robbers. And they give you security, because when you go to sleep at night, if you're locked inside your shelter and covered and protected by your walls, you're not as easily attacked by those who would seek to do you harm as you would be if you were sleeping outside. But food, clothing, and shelter, while they have a physical element to them, they have a philosophical element. Food, again, is simple. On a mental level, food becomes the information that we feed our mind. The mind constantly needs information. It constantly needs knowledge in order for us to operate properly. Clothing becomes philosophically character. It's the character that we clothe and cover ourselves with. Think about it. In the Bible, I forget exactly what scripture, but after Noah built the ark, they say he got drunk and got naked. when he got naked, his son came in and saw him naked and said he cursed his son. What does this mean? Well, think about this. Think about this concept. Naked nudeness wasn't that he got physically naked. It's that he got out of character. And the son is not always just a physical son or somebody that your seed gave birth to. Sometimes a son is a philosophical son, somebody that you taught, build with, that respects you, that looks up to you. So they pretty much want to follow in your footsteps. If you get out of character and do something ill-gotten or wrong, or you get off code, then they'll think that it's all right to get off code, and you just curse their learning because you did some nonsense. And if you think I'm full of it, think about this. Do you remember when the old folks, sometimes you've seen somebody get drunk, they act a fool. The old folks will say, man, that nigga got all the way out of character. You know, they talk about character like it was clothes. He showed his naked ass. They talk about character like it was clothes. He didn't literally get naked, but because he got out of character, they say he showed his naked ass. So clothing represents character in this instance. And then we go to shelter. On a philosophical level, we take shelter all the way back to understanding. Because I said understanding gives you something you can stand under. And that's what shelter is. Shelter is the codes, it's the principles, it's the laws, the rules that you use to govern your own reality. And as long as you stand under them, they say you're an honorable man. You're a man that live by a code. You can say, I have no stain on my rep. I have no stain on my shirt. That's your shelter because you're covered in that. And that protects you when you move. So there are those that because they know your character, because they know who you are, because they understand the shelter or protection that you stand under, they'll always trust every move you make and every word you say if you're an honorable man. Not if you're a sufferer, but if you're an honorable man. Then that gives you the ability to move to the last three. Love, peace, and happiness. Now what is love, peace, and happiness? Love. Scripture again, I'm going to use scripture again. It says that God is love and love is God. Now, whenever we use the equal sign in mathematics, it's saying that whatever's on the left side is the same as what's on the right side. The equal says God, love. So God and love are the same thing. So then you got to ask yourself, what is the G-O-D? The G-O-D ultimately is the gainer of understanding of definitions. The G-O-D is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipotent. It means that you're omnipresent everywhere, omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, all-knowing. That's what it means. So to move and operate in love means that you operate off those principles. You move in love, and you move in love whenever you're dealing with anybody else in your reality. You move and you operate off a level of love or compassion for other people and for oneself. Because there can be no love for nobody else unless you have love for yourself. It said that you have to love. It said that you treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. You can't treat anybody good if you don't treat self good. So you must first love self and then express the love that you have for self to everything around you, which puts you in a level of peace or harmony. Peace is to have harmony or balance. Peace, people think peace is to break up a fight. Sometimes you can break up a fight and people will still hate each other. There's no peace, there was just no physical conflict. But real peace is to create balance or harmony between one's own thoughts and one's own feelings. Create balance and harmony between the intellect and the emotions. Once balance exists there is peace, there is a harmony, and that at the end leads you to happiness. And happiness, as I said in the beginning, truly is contentment with oneself. You can look at yourself, you can look at your character, you can look at your behavior, and you can salute you. You can say, man, I'm all right. I'm confident and comfortable with myself. If you're a savage, you look in the mirror and you can't always say that because you know you stole from your mama. You know, if you're a savage, you know you cheated your brother. If you're a savage, you know that you lied, cheated, backbite, stole, stabbed people in the back. You know what kind of low-life, rotten, no-good snake you are. I call these people Mac Dirty. You know that there's no blow too low for you. You know that there's things that when it comes to your own selfish desires and your own selfish needs, there's no trick that's too low for you to pull, and you'll never be happy with yourself. Man, this is, I call this the pursuit of happiness. Hopefully you got something from it. I got something else too. I'm not finna build on it because I decided I was gonna build on this, but I decided to save it for its own video. They call it the 7 principles of Ma'at. And these are other characteristics that the truly conscious person takes on that actually helps them to become happy. And I'm gonna tell you what they are. I'm not gonna build on them. I'll build on them in another video. They are truth, justice, propriety, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. And these they deserve their own video, because in ancient times it was said that the king in ancient Kemet was the manifestation of these principles. He was Ma'at, walking, talking, and living. And you've seen Ma'at before. And you ever seen the tattoo that's on Rihanna's chest, the single Rihanna? Have you ever seen that tattoo on her chest? That's the tattoo of Ma'at. But again, I'm not going to build on that here. I'm going to build on it another time. So stay tuned to the videos. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. And if you want to hear that, if you want to hear me build on them 7 principles of Ma'at, say it in the comments. Peace and power.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something epic again. Vintage. I gave my heaven if you could just see through my hair. You got that? My days are numbered, read it somewhere in numbers. Oh, she told me it's the thing shit I ordered to do that unsure. So free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. I was honest, swear I was wanted on every corner. I was locked away like a monster too many times. This time, can't even bring myself to write my people. This time, can hardly bring myself to write a sequel. Don't ever take life for granted, this life a cheat. Don't know how many days we got on this planet Ice, so be cool. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Man in the mirror's the shooter, I'm begging to be conducive. An uphill battle, a boat without a paddle, I float. Vampire in Dallas, like sleepers in Seattle. I know all these talents and gifts, and you giving up on me. So God keep bringing me back, like bitch, you stuck with me. What's up with me? My days are numbered, read it somewhere in numbers. Oh, she told me it's the thing shit I ordered to do that unsure. So free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. Don't shoot the messenger, maybe I'm just a messenger. Cole can coach you to the Super Bowl, but I keep messing up. Doc said I had blood clots, but I ain't Jamaican, man. And God's plans ain't the same age to God hands. In 99 I told Scoop I was just passing through. No lie, so you see the goal can't just be passing you. King talk, if I ever knew it or blew it, huh? Starships and rockets. It seems we got a problem, Houston, huh? Heard the officer say I was a flight risk. 4 false sense of freedom, ain't no telling what he might risk. Hannibal Lecter, cut out my own wrist. The realest shit I ever wrote just gotta be it. My days are numbered, read it somewhere in numbers. Oh, she told me it's the thing shit I ordered to do that unsure. So free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Come on, free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. My days are numbered, I am but a foreigner. My green card's my only ID for the corner. They say that life on earth is but a test to the trust well. So far I failed the test, so far I've been fucking up. Guilty of committing spiritual adultery, flirting with the temptations of the world which only insults me. I never thought I'd throw rocks at my own throne. I never thought that I'd die alone in a song.